All right, here we go. This is the one that I read. This headline is like misleading as fuck. I would call this clickbait if it wasn't medicalexpress.com's article. But yeah,
it's pretty much clickbait.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was on social media, clickbait.
Spurred by mass shootings, more Americans view mentally ill as violent. So hang on your horses. We're going to be reading this. Americans are increasingly viewing people with mental illnesses as a violent threat, despite scientific evidence to the contrary, a new study suggests. And I may wind up making this into a video later on today. Researchers found that compared with 10 to 20 years ago, more Americans today believe that people with schizophrenia are a violent threat towards others. By 2018, over 60% of study respondents held that view, and a similar percentage thought people with the disorder should be forced into hospitalization. That's scary. Forced. Meanwhile, many Americans also perceive people with major depression or alcoholism as violent toward others, though those numbers haven't changed much from years past. The vast majority of people with mental health disorders are not violent towards others, and little violent crime in the United States can be attributed to them. It's a myth that people with mental illnesses are more violent than the rest of us, said lead researcher Bernice Pescosolido, a sociology professor at Indiana University in Bloomington. The U.S. Health Department estimates that only 3 to 5% of violent acts are committed by people with a serious mental illness. So a lot lower number than most people are getting.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So me that suffers from major depression, that means I have an excuse now to be violent towards people?
Nope.
Oh, but Maddie. But it's sad. I'm supposed to be violent.
No, just because a lot of Americans expect you to be doesn't mean you have to be.
Oh, fine.
McGinty, who is not involved in the study, conducts research on mental health, substance use, and violence. In 2016 study, she found that about 40% of news stories on mental health drew links to violent behavior, and that has become more common in recent years. McGinty said the gun lobby promotes the idea that gun violence should be tackled by the mental health system. And they do, in all fairness. Because they're trying to fight back against, the whole gun control thing from the left by saying, well, it isn't a gun control issue, it's a mental health issue. And we'll get to that later on because both of us, I know, probably have a back and forth rant about this. Pointing the finger at mental illness has two broad consequences. Pescosolido said, unfairly stigmatizing people with psychiatric conditions and giving the public the false impression that better mental health care is the answer to the nation's violence problem. Besides the fact that most mentally ill people are not violent, she noted, there's another key point. Mental health professionals, contrary to popular belief, are not able to predict which patients will become violent toward others. Psychotic break. Hello. 1996, 2006, and 2018, U.S. adults were asked to respond to various vignettes portraying someone with either schizophrenia, depression, alcoholism, or simply daily troubles, such as problems with anger control, but no psychiatric disorder. There were about 1,100 to 1,500 participants in each wave. In 2018, respondents were more likely to say someone with schizophrenia was dangerous to others versus previous years. Many also believed that people with depression or alcohol dependence were a threat to others too, though they thought the risk of self-harm was greater. There was wide support for coerced treatment, we know what that means, especially for people with schizophrenia, but even when it came to the hypothetical person with everyday troubles, quote-unquote, about 1/5 of Americans in 2018 voiced support for forced medication or hospitalization. Perpetrators are clearly not mentally healthy, McGinty stressed, but she said that does not mean they have a diagnosable psychiatric disorder. Instead, Pescosolido said perpetrators may often be driven by things like anger and social isolation, which are not mental illnesses.
Thank you.
Most, not all, see how they say most mass shooters are young white men. Pescosolido noted, we need to better understand why they're getting so angry at society that they'd just do this.
But Maddie...
SJWs, what?
It says I could go out and do stuff. Come on, Maddie. Bloodlust. Merlin has bloodlust.
Right? Schizophrenia are most dangerous to themselves. That's probably by accident. That's Neilk.
And thank you, Shai, for saying depression is not a mental illness. That made me feel good. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, okay. The problem is there are so many narratives being pushed nowadays. Those of us with a rational mind and a logical way of seeing and picking out patterns and recognizing that the patterns exist realize that a lot of these mass shooters, especially when you look at school shootings, more often than not are kids that are bullied. The system has failed them. The fail-safes that are supposed to be anti-bullying programs were either non-existent or woefully lacking in the support they needed to have in order to prevent any kind of retaliation from bullying happening.
Also, like school administration and teachers will punish the person for standing up to a bully than actually taking care of the bully themselves.
Mm-hmm. And then, as Neil said, as I was about to get to, there's no shock that young white men are shooters. Every media in existence tells them they are the problem with society. They can't do anything without being accused of X, Y, or Z. It's bullying up to 11, and it's CNN and MSNBC doing it. It's not only that, Neil.
Praise Doug.
Praise Doug.
Yeah, it's not only that, Neil. It's the current regressive way of thinking on the left. The newest, this narrative that has been pushed for over 2 years now by the latest wave of feminism that, teach your boys not to rape. And every time I see that fucking phrase, it pisses me off. Because they're assuming that we have, whether you're a single mom or you're married with a son, that you're teaching them to do this shit. And these bitches need to shut their fucking mouth and they need to leave men alone. Men aren't the problem. It's the narrative that's problem, and it's the narrative that's making men fucking snap. You can't constantly tell a group of people that they're pieces of shit, that they're blamed for everything, that they're the most horrid thing that walks the fucking planet, and not expect them to retaliate or have a fucking psychotic break.
I have the most awkward boner right now.
and can I say, does anyone know right now what group has the highest rate of suicide?
Men. White men.
White young men.
Yeah.
The suicide rate has jumped off the chart for that category, for that group.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm gonna pick up where Maddie left off.
I get a turn somewhere.
Yeah.
When it comes to this, okay, if you look at history on what men have been capable of doing, stockpiling weapons, food, survival traits, survival skills, right? It's not a matter of the fact that we don't know what to do when we're alone. It's the fact that when that narrative is kept pressing, you got to remember, we're holding all the weapons. You poke a sleeping bear long enough, you can't bitch when that fucking bear gets up and knocks your fucking jaw off.
Nope.
See, the thing is, feminism these days are just like, white men are the problem, white men are the problem, and people are starting to agree with them. Well, guess what? If you can't talk to anybody about that aspect, then guess what? Violence is the option.
I read an article, a very good article, a couple of days ago, and basically it asked the question, why do we need fourth wave feminism? Because everything that women needed, rights, to be equality, all that shit, that they haven't. Everything that these feminist groups set out to do, they accomplished it. So why do we need fourth wave feminism?
Mm-hmm.
We're in like the 58th wave of feminism now, okay? Yeah, there's micro adjustments.
Also, it's technology.
Yeah.
Where they're being taught that human interaction is icky and bad. You'd rather talk to someone on the phone when they're sitting next to each other. They're texting each other.
Oh, hell, they're talking on the phone.
No one's teaching social interaction no more. No one's teaching them how to be a human being, how to be polite, how to, debate and not just say, no, I'm right because I'm special. The schools have let these kids down. I'll go with Rat now. My turn.
Go for it.
Thank you. These schools, the society, and everything else has put everything against a scapegoat, which is the young white male. Now they are the great scapegoat. Do you know right now there's a movement called the 619 movement? Does someone want to know what the 619 movement is?
What?
It's a movement that says that should be the date of America, because that's when the first 21 group of African American slaves came to the shores of America.
Jesus Christ.
So they want to base America that we're nothing but a deranged bunch of fucks who don't care about other humans, and we just use it for our own need because that's capitalism. Our founding fathers actually tried in their own way to put in the Constitution so to open the door so someday slaves would be free. And the bullshit excuse that, well, you know, they could have just done it. No, not that doesn't work in the society that you're living in. You just don't go out there and just change it. So right away we have all these leftists and everything else saying that, you know, capitalism is bad, white man is bad because they run the country, and it's not your country because you should go back to Europe, which is another stupid excuse. And it's just these little bullshit things. They're like little prickers.
Yep.
You know those little pricker things that get into your shoelaces?
Yep.
And you spend hours picking them out?
Yep.
That's what it fucking is. Because every day is some little pricker that attaches to these people.
Yep.
And now we're teaching these kids not to be men, but be little bitches and do whatever the female says. Mm-hmm. And you have a group of incels that no one is helping. No one wants to. That's the biggest thing there is. No one wants to help anymore.
Nope.
No one wants to step up and like take care of the issue. No, let it fester. Let it fester to the point where it destroys our country, to the point where it will never be the same. We'll never claim that this is the greatest country because we'll be like a typical socialist democratic country like Germany, like France, both pussies following the line.
Yeah.
We don't need this. As Americans, we need to stand up and take care of our own. Parents, get off your fucking asses.
Priesthood.
It's time that you finally do your fucking job. The schools are not going to take care of your kids. The state is not going to take care of your kids. The federal government is not going to take care of your kids. It's up to your fucking lazy fat asses to get off that couch and do your job as fucking parents.
Yep.
And like
that's the issue. At the end of the day, that's the fucking issue, because the child is raised in the environment, and wherever the environment is, that's the child's going to grow up as. And the parents not there doing their job, guess what? I guess no one loves me because my mother didn't love me. She didn't hug me. She didn't kiss me.
And like Nilk says, men like to do. They want to show their existence through making an impact, normally a positive one. It's when all other options are gone that the negative impacts are reached for, right?
Thank you, Ghost Dog.
Which is true, because the thing is, like I said before, men are human doing, right?
Yeah.
When there is no incentive for the doing of the human, why the fuck would you be human doing anymore?
America's grown up on a work ethic, a strong work ethic, and you're right, Optimus. As men, we were the providers.
When shitty work ethic isn't punished and good work ethic isn't, congratulated or promoted, what incentive do you have to get off your ass anymore?
And I'm like ashamed of real men not stepping up and trying to do something about this. It's all our responsibility at the end of the day. We have to fight the bullshit, but we don't. We just lay down and we get covered with the bullshit and let life go on.
Yep.
We gotta take a stand.
Yep.
Take a fucking stand and actually do something to make this country great. It doesn't have to be a hero, just a simplest thing like teaching your children right and wrong, what a good work ethic is, that they are loved, that they don't need these fucking messed up things in their mind about being trans and this and that.
No, it's like I've talked to, and on Twitter you've got the regressive left and you've got the cancer, but you also. And
that's another video down. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, and if you didn't like the video or didn't agree with it, there's that other button that we don't like to mention, but it's right next to the like button. If that subscribe button is bright red, you know what to do, and that bell next to it is as fickle as a pregnant woman in a grocery store, but smack it anyway, and you just might get a notification next time we upload. And don't forget, if you want to continue the conversation or comment on any of the stories that we covered in the video, that's what the comment section is for. All the support that you can give us is also in the description box, along with all the links to the sources used for this video. Catch you guys in the next one.